Hello, guys. Once again, it's me, Shane Davis, 20-year comic veteran. I'm here with Yanzi Lin, and today is the day we're talking a little bit more decimated DC as it's coming about that they can't keep talent. Now, this is a thing that we're going to go back through and we're going to review some stuff. Some things maybe are new to you, but if you guys will, look down below, hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, because this SDCC is probably going to be the lightest bit on the news as far as talent goes and working at DC Comics. We're going to talk a little bit, why is that? Why is the comic culture as far as talent working in comics eroding at its core? DC Comics used to be a powerhouse of a comic book publisher with such books, juggernaut books, rocking the sales charts from Geoff Johns. And of course, he worked with Gary Frank a lot. Now, what's interesting about this is an image book that kind of snuck out before SDCC. A lot of image books, as far as big announcements go, oftentimes do. Why? They want to stand out from all the Marvel and DC news at San Diego Comic-Con. This year, not so much a threat. DC Comics has no booth appearance, a few panels. They usually have about 20 panels or so, I think, for the whole convention. Before we get into it, I do need to reiterate, this is a documentary of sorts of a channel here where we kind of watch everything, kind of, the tea leaves, make heads or tails of it, see what we think. Interesting enough, this pitch,
This is called Junkyard Joe, and I think
okay,
something familiar, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There used to be a character, and still is a character at DC Comics, an old war character called G.I. Robot. When I was at DC Comics, me and another writer wanted to actually pitch G.I. Robot to DC Comics. I thought he was a cool character, and it kind of got snuffed out because Geoff Johns had plans with the character. Oddly enough, the character made one appearance in his Superman run for one issue. It was a weird one-off issue, so whatever, our miniseries didn't happen. Now, obviously, Geoff Johns liked this character enough that he has an idea, and he's doing it in Image Comics. This is basically the same character. It's a robot in like a World War II setting. It's straight out of the DC Comics. Now, that's not what this video is about. What this video is about is, why is the talent working everywhere but DC? Even Scott Snyder or Greg Capullo working on an Amazon book thing. Like, okay, so I got it. These guys, I can't go through the toy section at Walmart and Target without actually tripping over Dark Knight's metal toys everywhere. A record, whatever, t-shirts. So why are they not working at DC Comics? Very odd, very strange, right? Brian Cunningham and Hank Canals, once a senior editor, used to work on things like Doomsday Clock, all of the Superman books. Hank Canals, VP of DC Comics, not there anymore. Actually, small publishing company they formed after one of the DC bloodbaths, and now getting in bed with Dynamite Comics. Now, so a small publisher, up and coming publisher from what used to be VPs at DC Comics, trying to, I don't know, do some type of co-op deal with a smaller company like Dynamite. And then where are we going from here?
I don't know. I just want to point out what they're trying to do over here. They're trying to do a universe of wuxia, martial arts, fantasy comic books, and trying to sell it to the broader marketplace. And then it's like a very, very Chinese thing. I would say almost a Chinese thing. You won't even see it really in like Hong Kong or Taiwan. So at this point, I'm wondering what audience they're hoping to grasp. Maybe they're hoping that they can reach into the Chinese market with their stuff, I guess, maybe. But all right. So today, though, there was an interesting tweet from the official Sean Gordon Murphy art sales account, because as we know, he terminated his account after he made some rather unfortunate comments about BLM and the riots. So here he is saying, people who listen to our badass podcast ask me this a lot. Am I thinking about retiring from comics? Answer. I think about quitting mainstream a lot lately. I'm heartbroken with how things run lately. I might nope out. So that's interesting, because you remember, Sean Gordon Murphy, prior to this, before he ran back to DC again, he actually ran a pretty successful Indiegogo called Plot Holes. And it raised $250,000 over, I guess, a year or so, maybe.
Yeah, right. And then Inglorious Rex came and ran all over it. Yes. But anyways, let's not get into that. Sean Gordon Murphy, big superstar talent at DC Comics, given Batman runs, do whatever he wants. They make Todd McFarlane toys off of it. You'd think he would be treated like royalty, right? He's making new figures for them, new statues, whatever. So the idea is, like, you have a popular enough comic and it'll make merchandise. But see, the problem is his new run of Batman didn't really get promotion. And because it didn't get promotion, the sales were low. And once the first issue sales are low, like you can't really recoup, because if you can't sell more, you can only sell as many number 2s and 3s as one sold. Like nobody's just going to come on and start reading at issue number 2 if there's no issue number 1s to build a foundation of readership. Then you're kind of limited to what you could do. And there was an issue with this book where he couldn't convince DC Comics to do a second printing of issue number 1 till issue number 2 had sold out. Issue 1 sold out, issue 2 sold out. They were criminally underordered, according to him, and he had to twist their arm to try to get the books on the shelf just so that he could keep selling more copies of the book. So at some point, it's interesting. He's not saying he's upset with them. He's just, I might nope out. Meaning, like, it's probably got to do with money. A lot of these things, people are going to be like, well, Shane, like, what does this mean? Everybody's just tired of working on Batman. No, they're not.
Who's going to be tired of working on Batman? I'll tell you what it is, though. We know that Sean Gordon-Murphy has recently picked up an IP, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. From my understanding, on a podcast I've heard him talk about, he has acquired the rights to Zorro now from the estate, and I think there's some other stuff going on with Zorro. So, and he's also talked about picking up other licensed books, which again doesn't make a lot of sense to me, like Knight Rider, things like that, that people would be willing to license out for you to make a comic. And he's already done a successful crowdfunder. So why not just, he's at a point where, and probably a lot of these people are at a point of, with DC rates being cut so low, do I keep working for the mainstream or do I go build my own stuff? Now, here's the interesting thing I'm going to explain about all this in crowdfunding. And Sean's kind of like a guy going into crowdfunding, I think, more and more. Jeff John's another guy going into creator-owned stuff more and more. Some of these guys are probably looking back, and this is a factor with the low pay right now in comics. But there's two main things. One, if you're a cis white male, you're probably going to be canceled eventually. You know, Sean Gordon-Murphy had the love bombings of accused of love bombing. So there's that. And then two, like eventually your rates getting cut to nothing because sales are lower and lower. No matter what you can do, you can't pull it up. I had a royalty statement recently where I had a negative royalty. They're actually taking money away from other books of mine I did like 10 years ago to pay for a book that they can't sell now. So like the industry, people are going to say it's doing better than ever. No, it's not. All the talent's leaving DC Comics. They're surrounding creator owned. And at this point, even if DC Comics offered him $10 more a page than he could probably make in crowdfunding, he's better off doing the crowdfunding. Even if they offered him $100 a page more, he's probably better off doing the crowdfunding. Why? Because he's building up his own IP, stuff he owns. And in theory, he can keep printing down the road. Now, if he wants to play with licenses like Knight Rider or Zorro, that's another thing altogether. Geoff Johns is probably making less money working at Image than if he worked at DC, hypothetically. But he doesn't, one, really have to worry about being canceled off of books that he owns. He could be hypothetically canceled out of Image. If he creates that book and he owns that book, he's never going to get fired from the book. Now, why some of these creators aren't going to crowdfunding is beyond me, because crowdfunding is kind of like a type of format that we're seeing people like Eric July benefiting from, even though that's more crowd selling. But still, this direct-to-customer movement is only growing, and more people that come over to crowdfunding, you're only... I advise everybody that's working in mainstream comics, while you still have somewhat of an audience left, because it's dwindling, grab them, come to crowdfunding. But don't come to crowdfunding when you have no fans anymore. While you still have some fans, come to crowdfunding. Even if you're making less, you get to sell that book for the rest of your life if you want to. You can add it to other campaigns you do. You can resell that material over and over again. And at the same time, at least you're not going to get canceled off of your book because it's your book. It's not Batman. And it's weird. The other thing that's weird I want to end on is, where's the talent that's replacing all of these people? What's the big new editor replacing Brian Cunningham, the new big VP, Hank Canals? Who's the big new writer replacing Geoff Johns? Like, who's the big new artist / writer that's going to replace Sean Gordon Murphy? Where are these people? Where's the sea of talent? I don't think a lot of creators are running to Marvel and DC right now. That's the other thing that nobody's going to up and say they're not. But I wonder what their submission lines looking like at San Diego Comic-Con this weekend. What's your thoughts, Yanzi?
They're still doing submission lines. The last time I looked, I thought they were pretty bare now. All right. So my one thought, especially on this Sean Gordon Murphy thing, is that, see, they know that he has run a successful crowdfunder in the past. They know he can always run back to it. But he chose to go back to DC. So DC obviously either doesn't know how to value the talent they have, or this is really just some negotiation tactic coming from Sean at this point.
Well, he's done this before, but it was more on an Image book with Tokyo Ghost, I think. So, and that's how he ended up with the Batman White Knight stuff to begin with. Now, obviously, sales are going to diminish the longer he stays on Batman White Knight. They're only going to go down. If I was DC Comics, I would give him a Superman graphic novel and let him just create Superman content and make toys off of that. And you would probably pick up, I think his sales would actually go up. The longer he stays on Batman and keeps doing Batman, the lower and lower the sales are only going to go. But that's my 2 cents on that. But, what's more than 2 cents? And beat Sean Gordon Murphy's plot holes. Inglorious Rex moving on up to $270,416. As you see on this counter, you have 6 days left. By the time you see this video, it's probably more like 5. This will be closing down next Wednesday. So this will be closing down at midnight Pacific Standard Time. So if you guys will, I'll leave the link down below in the video. I'll leave you guys with the trailer. Hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and we will catch you guys again with another video.
Please excuse me, your honor, but you can't hold me no longer. Can't you feel the vibrations? I broke out and left traces. Go ahead, try catch me if you can, man. You'll be looking all night, I'm the Sandman. New York, London to Japan. I'ma show the whole world who I am. Boom, boom, boom. Major look, huh? Yeah, this one is for the books. All these chances I